Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
Really fascinating figure, someone who somehow managed to take the raw, brutal honesty of a professional kitchen and turn it into this global platform.
Yeah, it's quite a journey. He started out as, well, a veteran chef, right? Kind of hidden away in the heat of Manhattan kitchens.
And ended up guiding millions, literally millions, through some of the world's most complex, often overlooked places. A voice for culture, empathy, even serious journalism.
Right. And our mission today really is to try and understand that specific alchemy. How did that happen?
It's more than just tracing a career path, isn't it?
Exactly. We're digging into how a professional cook became arguably one of the most insightful voices out there on food, sure, but also culture, politics, even the sort of fundamental human condition.
So what are we working with? What's the source material look like for this?
We've pulled together a pretty comprehensive stack. Covers, his early life, that chaotic launch into media, his, let's say, a polarizing public image, his advocacy work, which became really important later on, and of course that final tragic chapter.
Okay, so to really get a grip on the Bourdain phenomenon, you kind of have to pinpoint the start. The moment his signature voice, that kind of anti-establishment vibe, was really forged and crucially amplified.
Yeah, before the TV shows, before Kitchen Confidential even, he was just a working chef. And he was apparently struggling hard to get this brutally honest essay published.
The one about the restaurant industry?
That's the one, detailing all the ugly secrets, as he put it, the dirt, the drugs, the crazy system, is even the contempt some staff had for customers. Real insider stuff.
And the fact that he struggled to get it published, that tells you something, right? His voice was radical for the time.
Totally radical. I mean, think about it. He wasn't some detached food critic. He was in the trenches, exposing the messy, unglamorous reality. And the sources show his big break actually needed a bit of, family help.
The Gladys Bourdain connection? His mother.
Right. She was a respected editor at the New York Times. She had to step in, pass the manuscript to a colleague, and that colleague, Esther B. Fain, happened to be married to David Remnick.
The editor of the New Yorker. Okay, that's the key link.
That's the essential launch sequence. Remnick saw the potential, the raw energy in the writing, and ran the essay in 1999, gave it that legendary title, Don't Eat Before Reading This.
And that one article, that moment, it just legitimized this entirely new tone, didn't it? That point-blank, take-no-prisoners style that defined him.
Absolutely. It was a stylistic breakthrough, kind of a mix of highbrow literary skill and this really lowbrow punk rock attitude. Vulgar, funny, smart, all at once.
The impact wasn't just positive, it was.
Seismic, yeah. Just huge. It proved he was right to write the way he spoke, No filter, no bowing down to the culinary establishment.
And right after that essay exploded came the book, Kitchen Confidential. Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly. 2000, New York Times bestseller, straight out of the gate.
And that book, wow, it wasn't just about recipes or restaurants. It was this raw, funny, often pretty disturbing memoir, laid bare the intensity, the drug culture, the sex, the sheer grit you needed to survive in those high-pressure kitchens.
It totally redefined food writing, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was like the anti-food porn.
That's a good way to put it. So, okay, let's unpack this a bit. The professional kitchen wasn't just his workplace. It was like the crucible where his whole way of looking at the world was formed.
That bluntness, the suspicion of authority, appreciating hard work over flashy appearances.
Exactly. Those were survival skills in the kitchen. Right?
Yeah.
And later, he just applied those same skills, that same lens, to looking at global politics, culture, everything.
It's like his whole journalistic approach later on was just kitchen honesty applied to the world.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, before he became this sort of bad boy figure, he was Anthony Michael Bourdain, born in Manhattan, 1956. Grew up mostly in Leonia, New Jersey.
And the family background is pretty key, I think. It gives you context for his later curiosity, his intellect.
For sure. His dad, Pierre, was in the classical music recording business, ended up at Columbia Records. And his mom, Gladys, we mentioned, the Times editor. So it was an environment with, intellectual rigor.
Even though they weren't particularly religious, apparently. Father Catholic, French descent, mother Jewish. But Bourdain himself said he never really bought into a higher power.
Right. And while he had this sort of privileged background in some ways, there was one very specific moment he always pointed to as the spark for his love of food.
The oyster.
The oyster in France, yeah. On a family vacation, trying his first one straight from a fisherman's boat. He talked about it constantly.
As this pure, unadulterated taste experience. So different from, suburban American food at the time.
And you can see how that moment, sources suggest, kind of set his lifelong values.
Yeah.
Appreciating food at its source, eaten authentically, no fuss.
Which led him down the culinary path, eventually. After graduating high school in '73, Dwight Englewood School, he did a couple of years at Vassar.
Yeah, but dropped out. Seems the real education was happening elsewhere. He was already working in seafood restaurants up in Provincetown, Massachusetts, places like the Lobster Pot.
That hands-on kitchen experience grabbed him more than academics.
It seems so. It cemented his path. He decided to go pro, went to the Culinary Institute of America, the CIA, graduated in '78.
And then the climb through Manhattan kitchens began. The real gritty stuff he'd write about later.
Exactly. Running kitchens at the Supper Club, 1 Fifth Avenue, Sullivan's. These were the places that forged that tough, disciplined approach, and also where he developed that deep respect for immigrant kitchen workers.
Which became a huge theme for him later.
A massive theme. By 1998, he lands the executive chef job at Brasserie Les Halles. And he stayed connected to that place for years, didn't he? Even after he was famous.
Yes, a chef at large. Right up until the Manhattan spot closed in 2017. Les Halles kind of became the physical symbol of the kitchen confidential world. Gritty, loud, real French bistro.
Totally. And it's crucial to remember that huge success with Kitchen Confidential. It wasn't like it came out of nowhere. That kind of overnight success almost never does.
Right, there were failures before that.
Absolutely. He'd been sending out unsolicited writing for years, trying to break into literary magazines, and even more telling, he wrote 2 mystery novels in the '90s that just tanked.
Bone in the Throat and Gone Bamboo.
Yeah. And they didn't just sell poorly. He was apparently paying for his own book tours for them, out of his own pocket.
Wow. So that rejection, that grind, it shows the success wasn't just handed to him. He really worked for it.
He had that grinder's mentality, for sure, and he brought that into his media career once things finally took off.
So the New Yorker piece validates the voice. Kitchen Confidential makes him a star. And then TV comes calling pretty fast.
Very fast. His first show was a cook's tour on the Food Network, 2002-2003. About 35 episodes. It was, the early version of his travelogue style. Still pretty focused on the food adventure side of things.
But the one that really cemented the image, the whole rock star chef thing, was No Reservations, right? Travel Channel, 2005 to 2012.
Oh, yeah. No Reservations was the defining show for that era. And this is where, his famous quote about the concept comes in. He boiled it down perfectly.
Which one was that?
He said something like, I travel around the world, eat a lot of shit, and basically do whatever the fuck I want.
Okay. Yeah, that pretty much nails the irreverent, curious vibe of that show.
Totally. Pure Bourdain. And while that was running, he also did The Layover for a couple of years, exploring cities in just 24, 48 hours, like a pressure cooker travel challenge.
But the big evolution creatively came with the move to CNN, didn't it? For Parts Unknown, starting in 2013.
Definitely. And that wasn't just about like a bigger network or more money. It felt like a statement about the kind of show he wanted to make.
He was pretty open about why he left the Travel Channel, wasn't he?
Extremely open. He was really frustrated, especially after the channel changed ownership. They started using his voice and image to endorse a car brand, which just completely went against his whole anti-commercial thing.
Yeah, I could see how that would infuriate him.
And apparently they were also making these unauthorized special episodes that were just clip shows, basically chopping up his carefully crafted narratives into easily digestible bits. He hated that.
So the move to CNN, a hard news network, was deliberate. It was about elevating the content.
Absolutely. He was using his fame to push cultural exploration towards geopolitical commentary. Parts Unknown went deep. Culture, conflict, history, in really complex places. Libya, Iran, Gaza, Myanmar.
And the filmmaking style changed too, right? Less frantic, more immersive.
Yeah, slower, more cinematic, more like long-form journalism. And you saw the payoff in moments like the Vietnam episode in 2016.
The one with Obama?
That's the one. Sharing cheap beer and bun cha with President Obama in a tiny Hanoi restaurant. It just perfectly showed Bourdain's knack for stripping away formality, getting to the real human connection, even with the most powerful people.
It was an iconic moment. And his work wasn't just the travel shows. He did other things too.
Right. He was a judge and mentor on that cooking competition show, The Taste, for a few seasons. Got some Emmy nominations for it, actually.
And he got into publishing too.
Yeah, collaborated on graphic novels like Get Jiro, which was this kind of dystopian food future thing. And maybe most significantly, he started his own publishing imprint, Anthony Bourdain Books, under Echo Press.
What was the focus there? What kind of books did he want to publish?
He said he wanted books reflecting his eclectic tastes. The key things were strong voices and real authority. He put it pretty bluntly. He wanted authors who could, quote, kick people in the head, but also vividly describe the experience.
Huh. Classic Bourdain. That focus on raw, unfiltered experience. It defined his whole public persona, didn't it? The culinary bad boy, the rock star.
Constantly compared to Hunter S. Thompson. The gonzo journalist comparison stuck.
And he leaned into it. The swearing, the sometimes controversial comments. His shows often needed those viewer discretion warnings.
Definitely. And a huge part of that persona, that brand, was his code when traveling. Eat whatever your host offers you, no matter how challenging. It was about respect for the culture.
And the list of things he ate is just wild. It shows real commitment.
Oh, it's legendary. Black blood sausages in Finland. Ant eggs in Mexico. Sheep testicles in Morocco.
The cobra in Vietnam stands out. The whole thing. Heart, blood, bile, meat.
Yeah, and the raw seal eyeball during an Inuit hunt. Pretty intense stuff. He did it out of respect.
But what's fascinating is the contrast. He'd eat a raw seal eyeball, but what did he often say was the most disgusting thing he'd ever eaten?
A chicken McNugget, which says so much about his values, right? Processed industrial food was the real enemy.
Though he did pinpoint an actual worst meal,
Wow.
unwashed warthog rectum in Namibia.
Ugh. Yeah, that one sounded truly grim. And fermented shark in Iceland, Hakarl. He called that the single worst, most disgusting and terrible tasting thing ever.
So that deep disdain for anything fake or overly commercial that fueled his famous feuds, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He went after celebrity chefs he thought were phoning it in, prioritizing fame over craft. Paula Deen, Guy Fieri, Rachel Ray, Sandra Lee. They were regular targets.
Even icons like Alice Waters and Elaine Ducasse got called out for what he saw as pretentiousness.
And it wasn't just random sniping. It seemed rooted in this philosophy of defending the hard work, the integrity of the actual cooks, the line cooks. Like his issue with Sandra Lee using canned goods and shortcuts, that was a deep offense to him.
But the irony, of course, is that he became this massive celebrity himself.
Huge irony. And he seemed somewhat aware of it. He did walk back some insults later, even made peace with Emeril Lagasse, who he'd initially slammed.
And for every chef he criticized, he championed others.
Right. Absolutely. He consistently praised chefs he saw as true masters, doing authentic work. Eric Rippert, Jose Andres, Thomas Keller, and he had huge respect for Julia Child's influence.
His whole attitude wasn't just about food, it permeated everything, even the music in his kitchen.
Totally. Huge fan of early punk rock. The Ramones, Dead Boys, the Voidoids, that was his soundtrack. And he had that famous, maybe half-joking rule.
No Billy Joel, Elton John, or Grateful Dead. Grounds for firing.
Exactly, which is hilarious because the ultimate irony. Billy Joel was apparently a fan of Les Howell's and used to eat there sometimes.
Oh, that's brilliant. The guy whose music gets you fired is a customer. That perfectly sums up the tension between the persona and the reality.
It really does. And it shows how that sort of bad boy energy wasn't just for show. It got channeled into really serious, thoughtful journalism later on. As David Klein wrote, Bourdain understood journalism should tell the truth, challenge the powerful, expose wrongdoing.
And he made that seem enjoyable, human, not just like homework.
Precisely. Which brings us to his advocacy work, where his platform became incredibly powerful. One huge, consistent theme was championing immigrant workers in the restaurant industry.
The invisible backbone, he called them.
Yeah, especially Spanish-speaking immigrants from Mexico, Ecuador, Central America. He knew from his own kitchen experience how talented, essential, and underappreciated they often were. He was incredibly vocal about that.
And he took that same fire to challenging Western biases about food globally.
Fiercely. He flat out called Western moral judgments on other cuisines racism. He hated that kind of cultural superiority.
Like his defense of China regarding the criticism over eating dogs.
Exactly. He argued you can't just dismiss a culture because some people eat dog there. He said that's racist. You have to understand the context, the history, the economic reality first. Empathy before judgment.
And he was just as direct about the whole MSG thing, the Chinese restaurant syndrome myth.
Oh, he demolished that. Said straight up, it's a lie. You know what causes Chinese restaurant syndrome? Racism. He saw it purely as xenophobia disguised as a health concern.
That commitment to showing all sides, even uncomfortable ones, led him into tricky territory sometimes, like the Jerusalem episode of Parts Unknown.
Right. He filmed in Jerusalem, the West Bank, Gaza, and he knew going in he'd catch flack from all sides. He actually predicted people would call him a terrorist sympathizer, a Zionist tool, a self-hating Jew, and everything in between.
But that awareness wasn't about being defensive, was it? It was about showing the complexity.
Exactly. He wasn't trying to offer easy answers. He was showing the messy, contradictory reality on the ground. And that commitment extended to the Me Too movement later in his career.
Yeah, he became a really strong voice against sexual harassment, didn't he? Both in kitchens and in Hollywood.
Very strong. He passionately supported his partner at the time, Asia Argento, in her allegations against Harvey Weinstein. And he even publicly called out Quentin Tarantino for alleged complicity in the wider Hollywood issues.
Which, looking at all this, the relentless travel, the political engagement, the public battles, it must have put immense pressure on his personal life.
You have to imagine so. He was married twice. First to Nancy Pukowski, his high school sweetheart, from 1985 to 2005.
They were together a long time.
Yeah. Then his second marriage was to Ottavia Busia in 2007. They had their daughter, Ariane, that same year.
But that marriage faced challenges too, largely because of his schedule.
He talked about it openly. Being away, filming parts unknown, something like 250 days a year, it put a huge strain on the relationship, and they separated in 2016. It's that paradox again. The guy connecting the world, but maybe disconnecting at home.
He was also incredibly open about his past struggles, particularly with drugs. Kitchen Confidential didn't shy away from that at all.
Not at all. He was frank about his history with cocaine and heroin, tying it to that chaotic 80s restaurant scene. He even described getting busboys to run out and score drugs for the kitchen crew back in the day.
And he battled smoking for years, too.
Yeah, heavy smoker. Quit for his daughter around 2007, which is great, but sources say he sadly relapsed towards the end.
But then, in contrast to those struggles, he found this intense discipline in Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Right. Really threw himself into it. Earned a blue belt in 2015, even won a gold medal in a competition in 2016. It seems like this constant search for discipline, for control, maybe.
Which makes the final chapter even harder to process.
Yeah. June 2018, he's in Strasbourg, France, filming Parts Unknown.
With his close friend, Eric Riepert.
With Riepert. And on the morning of June 8th, Riepert gets worried. Bourdain missed dinner the night before, missed breakfast. He goes to his hotel room at Le Chambard.
And finds him, dead by suicide, hanging. He was 61.
Just devastating. The official investigation found no foul play. Toxicology showed no narcotics, just a trace of some non-narcotic therapeutic medication. The prosecutor concluded it seemed impulsive.
The shock was immense. His own mother, Gladys, said he was absolutely the last person she would have ever imagined doing something like that.
The outpouring of grief was global. Chefs like Ramsay, Zimmern, President Obama tweeted that really touching tribute about their meal in Vietnam.
The one about the low plastic stool, cheap noodles, cold beer.
Yeah. Obama said Bourdain taught us about food, but more importantly, about its ability to bring us together and make us a little less afraid of the unknown. Just perfectly captured his impact.
Fans created memorials outside Les Halles, even though it was closed. Restaurants held tribute nights, raising money for suicide prevention lines.
His work carried on, too. They finished the final season of Parts Unknown with existing footage and interviews. Riepert and Jose Andres started Bourdain Day, June 25th, his birthday.
A way to encourage people to live like he did, travel, explore, share food.
Exactly. And his alma mater, the CIA, set up a scholarship in his name. The auction of his personal belongings in 2019 raised almost $2 million for his family and the scholarship.
And that chef's knife going for a record amount.
Over $230,000 for his custom Bob Creamer knife. It shows how much the tools of his original craft still mattered, how much they symbolized him.
And the interest clearly hasn't faded. There was the Roadrunner documentary in 2021, and there's a biopic supposedly coming out. People are still trying to understand him.
Which brings us back to that central paradox, doesn't it? The tragedy is so profound precisely because he was this champion of connection, of empathy, of facing the unknown without fear. He built bridges everywhere.
Yet couldn't overcome his own internal struggles, his own isolation in the end.
Yeah, it leaves you with this really difficult question. His whole public identity was built on exposing the nasty bits, right? The raw, unvarnished truth of kitchens, of cultures. He demanded honesty from the world.
So the question for you, listening, to think about is this. To what extent did that relentless public dedication to exposing reality everywhere else maybe prevent him from protecting or perhaps even confronting his own deeply guarded internal world? He showed us how to be vulnerable with the world, but maybe struggled to be vulnerable within himself. It's something to really consider as you reflect on his incredible, complicated story.